Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Before we wander too far, take a moment, dim the lights if you haven't yet. Maybe pull that blanket up a little higher, sink deeper into your pillow, and let your eyelids grow just a bit heavier. You deserve this quiet moment, this tiny escape before sleep finds you. Tonight, I want you to drift back with me. Back, way back, to a world of creaking timber beams, smoky hearth fires, and the peculiar warmth of water you didn't have to heat yourself. Imagine a medieval town on a chilly evening, streets half mud, half straw, a faint scent of burning peat drifting through the air. You're wrapped in a rough wool cloak, clutching it tight against the cold. But up ahead, there's a doorway glowing with a soft, golden light. This, my friend, is your neighborhood bathhouse. Don't be shy. Everyone goes here. The baker's wife, the merchant's son, even the old man who claims he hasn't washed in weeks, though you suspect he might be exaggerating. Inside, warmth hits your cheeks like a lover's palm. The air is thick with steam, rising from shallow stone pools, and candles flicker lazily along the damp walls. You hear it, right? The gentle splash of water being poured, the low hum of conversations, a few bursts of laughter that echo against the stone. Someone coughs. Someone whispers a name you don't quite catch. For a moment, stand here at the threshold. Feel the rush of hot air slipping under your cloak, teasing the chill from your skin. There's a faint smell of herbs, rosemary, maybe, or lavender if you're lucky. But underneath that, a hint of something more human. Sweat, wet linen, the subtle tang of wood smoke clinging to damp hair. Strangely comforting, isn't it? You're not alone here. Everyone knows everyone. And yet, once the steam swallows you, it feels like stepping into another world, one where secrets bubble up like soapy water and disappear just as easily. So take a breath. Let out slow. We're going to undress, step by step, until all that's left is bare skin and the sound of warm water waiting. It might feel scandalous, but don't worry, no one's really watching. Everyone's too busy scrubbing their own worries away. So, stay with me tonight. We'll slip past the creaking door together, drop our burdens on a wooden bench, and find out what really happened when medieval folk decided to bathe. This is your story now, too. Just let yourself drift. Ready? Let's step inside. Step carefully now. Feel the smooth, damp stone under your bare feet. A little slippery, isn't it? The warmth curls around your ankles, wrapping you up like an old friend you didn't know you missed. Ahead, the steam dances in slow swirls, catching candlelight and turning into ghosts that drift across the ceiling beams. Listen closely, there it is. The murmur of hot water, gentle and endless, like a heartbeat you didn't know this place had. You find a spot on a low wooden bench, worn down by centuries of other souls who sat just where you are now, shivering a little at first, toes curled in the chill before daring that first plunge. Beside you, a sturdy bucket brims with water, so clear it feels like a promise. You can see the faint trails of steam rolling off its surface, twisting away like secrets eager to escape. Picture this. A young servant boy shuffles by, arms trembling under the weight of another bucket. The iron handle creaks, droplets splash onto the flagstones. He pauses to catch his breath, cheeks flushed pink from the heat and the effort, the damp cloth of his tunic clinging to his thin back. He gives you a glance, shy, fleeting, then moves on, disappearing into the fog of bodies and water and whispered stories. Listen all around you, water sloshes in steady rhythms. There's a soft thunk as someone drops a ladle back into a tub. Somewhere deeper in the room, a laugh echoes, low, conspiratorial, like a joke only the steam is meant to hear. Over there, an old man hums tunelessly as he pours warm water over his shoulders, skin glistening like old leather polished by time. It's not just the sound of water you hear, it's the chorus of life. The flicker of gossip, the hush of a lover's sigh, hidden behind a drifting curtain of mist. If you close your eyes, you might even imagine the crackle of fire from the small hearth in the back room, where more buckets heat over glowing coals. A pot of herbs simmers there too. Rosemary, sage, maybe thyme if the bath keeper is feeling generous. It smells earthy, sharp, and oddly sweet, mixing with the warm dampness that clings to your hair. Imagine your hands dipping into that bucket now. The first touch of hot water against cold fingers. You flinch a little, don't you? Then the sting turns to comfort. You scoop a handful up to your neck, let it trail down your chest in rivulets that tickle your ribs. Tiny droplets drip from your elbows onto the stones below. The bath attendant, perhaps a broad-shouldered woman with sleeves rolled high, glances your way, nods in approval, then turns to tend to another bather's request for hotter water. Always hotter. Meanwhile, in the far corner, two young women lean close together, giggling. Their hair drips onto the back of another. Older woman scrubbing her knees with a rough cloth. She doesn't mind, or maybe she does, but here, no one has the right to complain too loudly. The bathhouse is equal parts sanctuary and spectacle. Everyone sees everything, even if they pretend not to. You catch a whiff of something unexpected. Is that ale? Someone brought a jug to share, passing it around carefully to keep it from tipping into the bath. Warm bodies, warm water, warm drink. The boundaries between clean and dirty, proper and improper, blur as easily as the shapes hidden in the steam. Notice how the sound changes when someone steps into the central pool. A soft splash, the ripple hitting the stone edge with a gentle slap. It's almost hypnotic, isn't it? Each swirl of water carries a rumor. Each drop that drips from an elbow carries a memory. You feel it in the air. The weight of stories untold. The hush of things confessed here that never make it past the bathhouse door. This is the murmur of hot water, not just a sound, but a lullaby for the medieval soul. So breathe in slow and deep. Let the scent of herbs, sweat, and old stones settle in your lungs. Feel your muscles loosen. Let the steam wrap around your shoulders, your neck, the back of your head. If you listen closely, you can almost believe that this sound could wash you clean. Not just your skin, but every stubborn thought that keeps you awake. And as you sit there, water dripping from your fingers, steam kissing your cheeks, know that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Right here, right now. Stay here a moment longer, toes curled on the slick stone, skin damp with rising steam. You can hear the hush of water all around you, the low hum of people easing into warmth. But there's something else, too. A quiet tension that prickles the air, right where the cold world ends and the bathhouse world begins. It's the moment you have to let go of your cloak, your shoes, your rough-spun shirt, and step into the light, just as you are. Picture this. You shift your weight, fingers fiddling with a knot on your belt. The linen fabric resists you, sticking to your damp palms. It's strangely intimate, standing half-dressed in front of strangers, pretending not to watch as they pretend not to watch you. But they're watching, of course. Everyone is in that casual, indifferent way that people do when they've seen so much skin they've grown almost bored of it. Almost. You notice an old man by the wall, bent at the shoulders, tugging at his tunic with gnarled fingers. Next to him, a young woman slips out of her dress with a practiced shrug, hair cascading over her shoulders like a curtain that can't quite hide the pale curve of her back. Their eyes meet for the briefest second, a polite nod, an awkward smile, then drift away again as if by some unspoken code. Meanwhile, your own clothes fall away piece by piece. The weight of your cloak hits the bench with a soft thud. Your shift slides off your shoulders, fabric brushing your arms like a goodbye. The cool air nips at the places that have been hidden all day. Your elbows, your spine, the tender back of your knees. There's no mirror here to remind you what you look like. Just the eyes of other bathers flicking over you and moving on. It's not shame exactly, more like a reluctant surrender. You're just another body in the fog now. And oh, the fog, it loves you for it. Steam coils around your bare skin, blurring your edges, making you softer somehow. It clings to your hair, settles in your lashes, beads on your collarbones. You're not sure where your body ends and the air begins. That's part of the magic or the mischief of this place. Imagine for a moment that you're someone else entirely. A young merchant, maybe with calloused hands and a coin pouch hidden under your folded tunic. Or a washerwoman who came here on a rare afternoon away from the riverbanks. Her arms strong from scrubbing, but her shoulders tired from secrets she carries in silence. Here, undressing is equalizing. There are no velvet doublets or silk gowns to separate the wealthy from the poor. The scars on your back, the curve of your belly, the tattoo inked on a bicep when you were foolish and 15, all of it floats up into the same warm mist. Listen, hear that giggle behind you? A pair of boys, not more than 16, slip out of their clothes in a mad scramble, pushing each other into the edge of the bath, water splashing up in silvery arcs. One of them howls when a splash hits his bare chest. He tries to pretend he's tough, but the cold edge of the stone is merciless. Their laughter is sharp and young, a reminder that this place isn't just about grime and scandal. It's about being human, too. Of course, not everyone finds this so casual. In the far corner, a priest hesitates, half hidden by a wooden partition meant for the shy or the self-important. He mutters a prayer under his breath as he undresses, as if the steam itself might tempt him to sin. Maybe it does. Maybe that's why he keeps glancing over his shoulder at the silhouettes behind the curtain, the shapes that move and shift with every flicker of candlelight. You stand there a moment longer, your clothes neatly folded in a pile that you'll soon forget. The bath attendant, that broad-shouldered woman again, or perhaps a young boy this time, gives you a quick once-over, checking you for cuts or boils that might foul the water. A necessary precaution, they'd say. You shiver a little as their eyes skim your skin, not with desire, but with the cool efficiency of someone who's seen more bodies than they could ever count. And just like that, you're part of it. Naked, vulnerable, oddly free. There's a strange relief in knowing that here, your secrets are no more scandalous than anyone else's. Everyone is exposed, in every sense of the word. Nothing separates you from the merchant with the crooked teeth, or the woman with a painted mouth and a grin that suggests she sells more than soap. You're just flesh and bone and breath, wrapped in steam and the hush of water. So go one step closer to the edge. Feel the warmth drift up from the surface. Soon you'll ease in. The world outside, the chill, the noise, the dirt under your fingernails will slip away for a while. And if you catch someone watching you well, maybe they're only wondering what stories you've brought with you tonight, waiting to be rinsed clean. Ready? Next, let's see who's waiting to scrub your back. Careful now, one foot in, then the other. The water laps at your ankles first, warmer than you expect, sending a shiver that crawls up your spine. You step deeper, knees bending slightly, your breath catching as the heat wraps around your thighs. A tiny hiss of pleasure escapes your lips before you can swallow it. You're in, up to your waist, then your chest, then your shoulders. And for a moment, just a heartbeat. You're weightless, drifting in warmth, the outside world a distant, frostbitten memory. But you're not alone in this pool of quiet oblivion. Shift your eyes, and you'll see them. Pairs of hands moving across damp skin, rags soaked and wrung out, bristles scraping away days of sweat, dirt, and regret. Here, the scrubbing is an art form. It's a ritual, a service, sometimes a sly transaction, always a little more intimate than anyone wants to admit. Picture this: a burly man, bald except for a thin horseshoe of hair above his ears, sits on a stone ledge while a younger boy, maybe an apprentice, maybe just desperate for a few extra coins, rubs a rough cloth over his back in long, circular motions. Each pass lifts a little more grime from old scars, each scrape drawing a grunt, a chuckle, sometimes a yelp. Between them, no words, just the soft slap of water, the rags rasp against skin, the hush of breath. Next to them, a woman with pale arms and flushed cheeks dips her cloth in a bucket of warm water, steeped in rosemary. She squeezes it over the shoulders of the man, leaning forward, elbows on his knees, eyes half shut. The trickle runs down the ridges of his spine, over the small of his back, pooling on the worn stone beneath him. He sighs, a sound halfway between relief and something almost indecent. Meanwhile, in the far corner, two friends, or perhaps sisters or lovers, it's hard to tell, giggle as they trade places. One perches on the edge, hair piled high, eyes twinkling like candle flames. The other kneels behind her, scraping a wooden brush across her shoulder blades. Every so often, a teasing squeal echoes through the steam when the bristles find a tender spot. They shush each other between giggles, but the sound floats across the room anyway, a bright, human note in the low hum of water and whispered stories. Imagine yourself now, feeling the roughness of a loofah made of coarse flax fibers. The bath attendant, sleeves rolled to the elbow, dips it into the bucket at your side. You catch the scent of lavender oil drifting up with the steam, a luxury in a world where soap is mostly animal fat, ashes, and blind hope. The loofah touches the nape of your neck first. A tiny flinch, then a deep exhale. The scratch of it is strangely satisfying, like peeling away a layer of the week that clings too tight to your skin. Relax, the attendant mutters, voice so low you're not sure they even meant for you to hear. You're stiff as a board, and you are. You feel it in your shoulders, the knots of worry, the tiny aches that build up carrying firewood, kneading bread, spinning wool, hauling stones. Here, under the bristles, those knots start to melt. The water laps at your chest, rising and falling with each slow breath. Scrub, rinse, repeat. The cloth glides down your spine, slides over ribs, circles the sharp edge of a hip. Nothing too scandalous, not yet. Though sometimes the line between simple cleanliness and something more blurred into rumor and reality. Look around, see the others now. A merchant you saw earlier, pudgy and red-faced, leans forward for his turn. The attendant scrubs him so vigorously you half expect his skin to peel like an onion. But he only grunts, eyes closed, lost in the scratch and splash. Farther off, an old woman does it for herself. She hunches over, dipping a rag into her basin, scrubbing her calves with the same care she might give to washing potatoes. No one bothers her. She's done this too many times to need help. Picture this too, the gentle talk that floats between each scrape and rinse. Little murmurs about the price of rye bread, who's been seen slipping behind the tavern at dusk, whose daughter is due to marry the cooper's boy. Scrubbing backs is an excuse for secrets to pass from ear to ear as easily as the soap bubbles that drift across the pool. And there, in that warm haze, you feel it, a kind of trust. Or maybe it's just the illusion of trust. After all, when you let someone scrub the place you can't reach, you're letting them see you. Not just the dirt on your back, but the soft parts too, the scars you don't show at the market, the mole you think is unsightly, the crooked line of a healed wound that once nearly did you in. Funny, isn't it? In this place where everyone sees everything, you might feel more invisible than ever, or more real than you've felt in days. So sit a while longer. Let the loofah rasp and the warm water rinse. Let the stories swirl with the soap. Tomorrow, you'll wrap yourself in your cloak again, hide these same shoulders under wool and linen. Keep your secrets tight against your chest. But tonight, you are here, bare, scrubbed down to something simple, human. Next, maybe you'll feel hungry. Maybe a cup of ale will find its way to your lips while your skin still tingles. But that's another tale waiting in the steam, isn't it? Next, you lean back against the smooth, wet stone, shoulders warm, skin tender from the scrubbing. And for a moment you think, maybe this is it. This is the whole ritual. A soak, a scrape, a rinse, and home again to your straw bed. But you'd be wrong, because a medieval bathhouse, at least the good ones, didn't just wash away your grime. They tempted you to linger, to indulge, to forget the cold wind waiting outside that door. So, open your eyes a bit wider. Tilt your head through the steam. Follow the scent drifting in under the tangle of rosemary and wet linen. Do you smell it? Malted barley, sour fruit, the faint sour-sweet promise of ale. Someone has carried a jug into the warmth. And where there's ale, there's talk. And where there's talk, well, that's when the real stories begin. Picture this: in one corner, the bathhouse keeper has set up a rough table. Just a wide plank across two barrels. And atop it, a jug of warm, spiced wine, a plate of coarse brown bread, maybe a dish of pickled onions for those who want to test their breath against the steam. People drift over, dripping and half-dressed, clutching wooden mugs in hands still wrinkled from soaking. One man perches on the edge of the table, knees drawn up, feet leaving wet prints on the floorboards. He laughs as he pours himself a second cup. The first has already loosened his tongue. The second will make him bold enough to tell tales no sober man should share. Meanwhile, you feel a cup pressed into your palm. Rough clay, warm from the bathkeeper's hearth. The rim touches your lips, and you taste it sharp, a little sour, a whisper of spices that tingle your tongue. It mixes with the warmth already blooming in your chest. You swallow, then another sip. Your shoulders sink lower into the pool's edge. You don't care that your hair is damp, that your knees poke above the water like pale, knobby islands. Here, nobody cares. Listen to the hum around you. Voices low and rolling like a lazy wave. A few splashy laughs break through the hush. Somewhere behind you, a woman's giggle spirals into a sharp shush, but you know she's just playing coy. Near the table, a pair of tradesmen lean in close. Mugs clinking, steam curling off their bare backs as they whisper about grain prices, about whose cart overturned on the old Roman road last week, about who might pay in silver to keep certain news from certain years. The bathkeeper, a stout figure in a damp apron, sleeves rolled to his elbows, drifts between the pool and the makeshift tavern like a friendly ghost. His face is lined and half hidden by steam, but when he catches your eye, he winks as if you two share a secret. Maybe you do. Maybe everyone does, once the ale has flowed enough to wash down good sense. Imagine this now. A young girl, maybe 12, slipping between grown bodies to top off mugs, gathering empty cups, wiping splashes off the breadboard. Her mother keeps one eye on her from behind the table, half smiling, half daring anyone to lay a hand on the girl. There's a hush of respect in that glance, because here, even a place as scandalous as this must hold the line somewhere. Look around again. See the little human details. A man tipping his cup back too far, ale dribbling down his chin to mix with the bathwater at his chest. Another tries to sing, badly, his voice echoing off the wet walls, half drowned by giggles. A pair of lovers, or maybe just strangers pretending for tonight, lean shoulder to shoulder in the shallows, whispering behind cupped palms. Did they meet here in the flicker of candlelight in the mist? Or did they come together, pretending not to know each other too well? It's not just the ale. It's the warmth, the steam, the sense that for a few stolen hours, you can be more than your chores, your debts, your daily filth. You can be warm and full, and just a little drunk, surrounded by the hush of water and the hum of gossip. You notice the old woman from before, the one who scrubbed her calves alone. Now she sits on a low stool near the hearth, a cup cradled in her thin hands, eyes half closed as she listens to two boys argue about who saw what behind the brewer's shed. She's not adding to the story. She's just soaking it up, storing it away for when she needs a good rumor to trade market. You shift in the water, letting your shoulders slip under again, cup resting on the ledge beside you. Each sip sends warmth deeper into your belly, mingling with the sleepy heat that loosens your thoughts. The flicker of candlelight catches the curve of a collarbone, the gleam of wet hair, the flush of cheeks that have tasted just enough ale to dare say too much. Funny, isn't it? A place meant for washing away the filth ends up pulling so many other things to the surface. Secrets, half-lies, bad jokes, sweet sighs in the dark. A bathhouse becomes a tavern. The water a mirror for everything people try to keep hidden under cloaks and fur hats. And when the cup runs dry, well, there's always more, so long as the bathkeeper trusts your purse. Or your stories. So sip slowly. Let your eyes drift half closed. Listen to the splashes, the murmurs, the laugh that cracks the hush like a dropped jug. This is the Bathhouse Tavern, a place you may leave clean in body, but never quite sober in soul. And if you start to feel the room spin just a bit, don't worry. Next, we'll drift into those darker corners, where the line between a friendly scrub and something more begins to blur. Next, lean your head back against the warm stone and let the ale settle in your belly. You're feeling it now. That pleasant heaviness behind your eyes, that lazy warmth that makes your limbs go slack in the water. Around you, the bathhouse still hums. Laughter echoes in the rafters. A jug clinks down on a table. Someone sings half a tune that dissolves into a giggle. But if you listen, really listen, there's another note in that music. A softer note. A hushed promise that slips between the candlelight and the drifting steam. See them yet? You will, if you look carefully, the women, and sometimes the men, who move through the mist like shadows wearing sweet smiles. They aren't dressed any differently from the others. Maybe that's the point. A thin linen wrap, a necklace that catches the flicker of a flame, a painted mouth that curves into an invitation just shy of scandalous. They don't call out. They don't need to. In this haze, want floats up like steam, and they know exactly how to find it. Picture this: a young man, shoulders pink from scrubbing, tipsy from cheap ale, eyes following the sway of hips as they pass. She pauses, just long enough to catch his gaze, just long enough for him to lean forward, elbows slipping on the wet edge of the pool. A coy smile, a fingertip trailing along his shoulder. And just like that, the line between innocent company and something darker dissolves like soap in hot water. Meanwhile, in the far corner behind a sagging velvet curtain, a luxury, that bit of velvet, even if it smells faintly of mildew. You catch glimpses of shapes moving. Two shadows, close together, shifting in that unmistakable rhythm. No one looks directly, or if they do, they pretend they don't see. That's how it works. A bathhouse is a place for cleaning, for warmth, for company. But it's also a place where certain needs bubble to the surface, just as dirty and just as human as the grime under your nails. The bathkeeper knows, of course. He keeps his eyes half-lidded, counting coins under the table while pretending to argue about the price of soap. The girls, and sometimes the boys, slip him a cut, a quiet thank you for the roof, the warmth, the shadows where no one dares to pry too hard. Imagine the scene. A woman, hair piled high, laughs as she pours a ladle of warm water over a man's chest. Her touch lingers longer than it needs to. He reaches for her wrist, tentative, half drunk on ale and half drunk on that smile. She's safe for men who can afford more than just a rinse. She leans closer, murmurs something lost in the splash of the bath, and they disappear behind a curtain that sways for just a moment before swallowing them whole. It's not all soft sighs and stolen kisses. Sometimes it's desperate. Sometimes it's just survival. Picture a tired girl, not yet 20, counting coins by the hearth when a night is done. Enough to buy a bit of bread, maybe a new shift, maybe not enough to keep her brother fed for another week. Yet tomorrow, she'll be back, because the bathhouse keeps its doors warm, and the steam hides the shame that would freeze in the cold outside. Of course, not every bather partakes. Some pretend they don't see, pressing palms over eyes when the moans drift too close, muttering prayers under their breath. A priest in the corner tightens his jaw, his face beet red, trying not to glance at the shadowy sway of that velvet curtain. His hands tremble as he pours hot water over his scalp, as if he could drown the thoughts before they root too deep. But the bathhouse does not judge. The bathhouse only holds. Warm water, warm bodies, warm coin changing hands under the hush of mist. It's all part of the same business. Come in dirty, leave clean, or dirtier depending on your coin purse and your conscience. And maybe, as you watch the shadows slip from pool to curtain, as you hear the soft, secret gasps just beneath the laughter and gossip, you wonder, is this so different from the filth they came here to wash away? Or is it the same human tangle? Hunger, warmth, loneliness, swirled together in the steam. No more shameful than the sweat they scrub off each other's backs. You sip the last of your ale, eyes heavy, limbs floating. If you're honest, it doesn't really matter. You're not here to judge. You're here to watch, to listen, to drift in the hush of voices, the splash of water, the quiet promise of things that thrive in the dark corners of the bathhouse. And when you close your eyes tonight, maybe you'll remember the shapes behind the curtain. Or maybe you'll just remember the way the steam fell on your skin, the warmth that melted the world away. Next, hush now. Let's drift closer to those voices, the gossip that floats like soap bubbles, carrying secrets you'd never hear outside these damp, echoing walls. Next, settle back into the water, your skin now warm to the bone, your shoulders soft, your hair damp and curling at your temples. The ale is gone, but its glow lingers, a slow, pleasant haze in your belly that makes your ears keen to every sound, every word that drifts just above the steam. Listen, do you hear it? The air in the bathhouse isn't quiet. Not really. It's alive with conversations that hover and swirl like the mist itself. Words float here. They bounce off stone walls, slip through the cracks of drawn curtains, settle on wet shoulders before dripping down into the pool. Picture this: two merchants, fat-bellied, half-drunk, sit so close together their knees knock under the water. One leans forward, whispering a number, a price for wool or grain, or maybe something more dangerous. The other lifts a brow, snorts, then glances over his shoulder as if the bathhouse walls might have ears. Which of course they do. The steam listens to everything. Nearby, a young wife, no more than 20, with flushed cheeks and a linen wrap clinging to her collarbones, hushes her friend. They lean heads together, giggling between sips of spiced wine. She's talking about her husband, or her lover, or the priest she caught watching her slipper shift off. The words are just clear enough for you to catch one name, but the rest gets swallowed by the splash of a bather slipping deeper into the pool. Imagine the snippets. A butcher's apprentice boasting about a fight behind the tavern. brandishing an invisible knife in the air, nearly splashing an old man who shoots him a withering look. A washerwoman telling anyone who'll listen that the miller's wife is heavy with child. But whose child? Well, that depends on who you ask. Here, truth floats like bubbles. Some pop the moment they're spoken, vanishing into the mist. Others stick, clinging to ears eager for scandal. The bathhouse is where gossip breathes, warm and wet and safe from the cold street, where wagging tongues freeze in the frost. Meanwhile, a pair of lovers, half hidden behind a curtain, whisper nothings that sound sweet only to them. Their voices are low, drifting in and out with the candle's flicker. You catch fragments, promises made in the hush, maybe lies, maybe truths they'll forget the moment they slip back into the night. Imagine an old woman perched near the edge, feet soaking in a small tub while her bony fingers drum against her knee. She watches everyone, head tilted, eyes bright as flint. She's not just here for the warmth, she's collecting. She'll carry these stories back to her neighbors, trade them for favors, weave them into warnings for those too young or too foolish to see the truth themselves. Next to you, a thin man with a hooked nose sighs into the steam. He mumbles a confession to the boy scrubbing his shoulders. How he lost a bet, how he owes the brewer too much coin, how he might skip town before the next market day. The boy grins, splashes water down his back, pretends not to care. But you can bet by morning that tale will float to the tavern, the market, the priest's ear. Nothing stays sunk here for long. And you drift in the middle of it. Eyes half closed, ears wide open. The water laps against your neck, each word landing like a droplet. None of it is meant for you. All of it is yours now. You catch talk of births and burials, of debts unpaid and favors unspoken. A merchant's secret debt, a wife's stolen kiss behind the mill, a ladle of warm water, a soft laugh, a name hissed so quiet you wonder if you imagined it. Funny, isn't it? Outside these damp walls, people guard their secrets like coins in a purse. But in here, in the fog, the warmth, the hush, they spill like soap bubbles on the water's skin. Maybe it's the ale. Maybe it's the illusion that mist can hide what daylight never forgives. Maybe it's just human nature. The need to empty our pockets of heavy thoughts before we wrap ourselves back in wool and step into the cold again. So listen, let the gossip drift over you like steam. No need to hold on too tight. Some stories will stick. Most will slip away by morning, half remembered, half true, leaving you with only the memory of voices echoing through the haze. Your fingers trace lazy circles on the water's surface, pushing tiny ripples across the pool. You catch an eye across the way, someone who knows that you've heard more than you should. They wink, turn away. In here, everyone's a listener. Everyone's a keeper of someone else's shame or joy or tiny, ordinary sins. And when you finally stand to leave, water sheeting down your arms, your hair dripping, you'll carry these fragments with you. Tiny ghosts of other people's truths, tucked between your damp skin and the cloak you'll wrap tight around your shoulders. Next, we'll slip closer to the things that don't smell so sweet. Not every drop in this bathhouse is clean. Sometimes, you see, the filth that clings to the body is nothing compared to what floats in the water itself. Next, take a deeper breath, though maybe not too deep. Not here, because now, with all the steam and the whispers swirling around you, it's time to notice what floats just beneath the rosemary and the rose petals some fancy bathers bring to mask what's really there. Picture it, a bar of soap in your hand, rough-edged, crumbly at the corners, half dissolved from too many hands dipping it into the same bucket of cloudy water. You might imagine soap as some sweet, perfumed thing. But here, in these medieval walls, soap was a different beast. It was harsh, stinging, married to animal fat so rank that if you caught a whiff before they dumped in the herbs, you'd swear it could spoil your appetite for days. They'd melt the fat down in big iron pots, throw in ash, stir and stir until the mess hardened. If you were lucky, someone with a bit of coin would add lavender, thyme, maybe mint to cover up the tallow sourness. But the smell never really went away. It just hid like a secret in a crowded bath. Imagine a ladle of that soap, mixture scraping along your spine. It bites your raw skin, still pink from the loofah scratch. You hiss a little, so does the man next to you. He gives you a knowing nod, as if to say, yes, we're all in this stink together. You rub it in anyway, because this is what clean means here: burning, scraping, smelling like wet dog and rosemary mixed with something you can't quite name. Meanwhile, an old woman leans over her basin, rubbing the bar between her palms until the water turns a milky gray. The surface bubbles up, but not the rich, foamy lather you dream of in a warm bath at an inn. These are thin bubbles, sad bubbles that pop almost as soon as they form, drifting across the steam like half-forgotten prayers. She dips a rag in, wrings it out over her shoulders, muttering that she'll smell like a butcher's scraps come morning. Nearby, two boys, not more than 14, dare each other to sniff the raw soap block the bathkeeper hawks from a crate near the door. One boy leans in too close, winces, and nearly drops in the bath. A splash, a howl of laughter, and the soap floats away like a lost boat, bobbing on the surface until someone traps it against the side with the palm. Another rumor, passed along like the lie. Someone says that bar's been here for weeks, too cheap to throw away, too sour to keep. But that's not the worst of it. Picture this: a sliver of soap wedged between stones, gathering bits of hair and flecks of old skin. No one talks about it, but they all see it. They shift away in the pool, pretending the water will carry it off like a bad dream. It won't. It clings. The bathhouse breathes it in, holds it tight, lets it stew among the feet and elbows and confessions. Sometimes the bathkeeper, sleeves damp and forehead shining with sweat, tries to sweeten the air. He tosses handfuls of dried lavender or sage into the hearth. The steam carries that soft green scent for a few breaths, but under it, the tallow waits. A butcher's shadow, a faint whisper of old blood and bone that no mint can bury for long. Yet, here's the curious part: people love it. They swear by it, by the scratchy soap that stings their cuts and leaves them smelling half clean, half beast. They trust it more than the fancy oils the nobles bring in glass flasks from the east. Why? Because the stink means it's strong. The sting means it's working. It's the small price you pay for stepping back out into the world with a face that doesn't shine with a week's sweat and a head that doesn't itch with fleas. Well, not as much. So you take it too, a sliver pressed into your palm by the attendant. You rub it along your arms, down your ribs, across the knobs of your knees. It catches in the tiny scratches you got from hauling wood, from picking nettles, from working hard enough that your skin can never truly stay soft. It burns. You breathe through it. A man behind you mutters that you'll feel it tomorrow. The soreness, the tiny red welts, the half-sweet stink that'll cling to your hair long after you wrap it under your hood. And still, when you rinse it off, you feel lighter somehow. Under the sourness, there's the faintest note of something good. Thyme, rosemary, maybe just a faint hope that when you step back into the night air, you'll smell like you belong to this half-clean, half-dirty little world. So you sink deeper into the bath one last time, letting the soap bubbles drift away. They gather at the corners, clinging to the stone walls, waiting for the next bather to come scrub away the same sins, the same sweat, the same stubborn sin of the life they'll always return to. Funny, isn't it? Even filth can be shared, passed from hand to hand like gossip, like warmth, like secrets that won't stay buried in cold water. Next, hush your thoughts now. The sting of soap fades, But another danger stews here too. The things that can't be scraped away with bristles or tallow. The sicknesses that float unseen in this warm, shared pool, waiting for the perfect skin to cling to. Next, settle back. Let your arms float weightless on the surface, eyes half-lidded from the heat and the sting of rough soap long rinsed away. You'd like to believe the worst is behind you now. The itch of old grime, the slap of a loofah, the tang of tallow on your skin. But here's the truth no one says out loud. Not the bath keeper counting coins by the hearth. Not the lovers slipping behind a curtain. Not even the old woman gathering gossip by the bucketful. This warm, shared water hides more than secrets. It hides things that can kill you just as easily as any dull knife or cold winter night. Picture this. A tub, wide, shallow, half full. The water turned cloudy after hours of backs being scrubbed raw and skin being sloughed off like old bark. See it ripple under the flicker of a candle. Beneath that rippling skin, tiny things wait, invisible to your tired eyes, too small for the chatter and the laughter to chase away. Meanwhile, a boy no older than 12 shivers at the edge of the pool, skinny knees drawn to his chest, a pink rash blooming across his shoulders. His mother hushes him, pours ladles of warm water down his back. Maybe it's nothing, she thinks. A bit of bad soap, a scratch gone sore. But you, with your drifting mind, half lost in the steam, you know what the others pretend not to see. Sores that won't heal, coughs that echo through the rafters, tiny parasites that slip from one body to the next, a chain of sickness bound by heat and touch and shared water. Imagine the pox, small or large, depending on your luck. A boil scraped raw by a loofah, floating flakes drifting like dead leaves into the same tub where someone soaks their feet, cuts unhealed. Imagine a scrape along your shin, no wider than a fingernail, but wide enough for what the water carries. You rinse it, thinking the warmth will seal it shut. But the warmth is what feeds the tiny things, makes them thrive, slip under your skin like unwelcome ghosts that don't need to knock before they come inside. Over there, a merchant's wife drags her cloth along her husband's neck. He flinches, but smiles, too proud to admit it stings. The red patch behind his ear, though, he knows it wasn't there last week. He'll leave the bath feeling lighter, cleaner, smelling faintly of rosemary and sweat. And a few days later, that little patch will bloom, weep fester. He'll swear it was a curse from a rival, or punishment for a sin behind the velvet curtain. But if you're listening, you know it started here, in the tub where everyone swears the water cleanses all. Funny, isn't it? The church says water is holy, a symbol of rebirth. But in this place, it's a cradle for death, too. A warm womb where parasites, boils, and blisters dream of soft, vulnerable skin. Picture this. The bathkeeper, sleeves rolled up to the elbow, stirring the coals under the great cauldron where he heats the next round of clean water. You'd think he'd empty the tub between each bather, but clean water is precious, firewood costs coin, and no one wants to sit in a cold bath. So the water gets topped off, stirred with a stick, maybe perfumed with a handful of dried herbs. But what swims beneath never truly dies. It just waits. There's talk, of course. Old wives' tales, half-warnings muttered as you wring out your hair by the hearth. A woman claims her neighbor caught the French disease, the pox of lovers, from a scratch in the public bath. Another swears her cousin's cough turned to black bile after an evening soak with a man who wheezed all through it. But they all come back, don't they? Because warmth is worth the risk, and a moment of closeness beats the cold ache of a wooden tub at home. You lean your head back, neck resting on the worn edge of the stone. Your eyes drift over the ripples. So calm, so ordinary, Yet you wonder how many unspoken curses swirl there, brushing your calves, slipping past your fingertips. And still you stay, because it's better than being filthy, better than freezing alone, better than the itch and stink of a week's labor clinging to you like a brand. Some risks are just part of living, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be lucky. You'll walk out into the cold night air with your cloak wrapped tight, lungs full of steam, skin pink and tender, none the worse for the warmth that has kissed you a little too deeply. So, hush now. Shift your legs, feel the water lap against your ribs. Next, you'll listen to the hush of buckets being filled, the rhythm of servants heaving iron cauldrons over coals, the clank of metal on stone. A different kind of song, one that keeps the bathhouse alive, water after water, secret after secret. Next, open your ears to a different sound now. Let the gossip fade. Let the coughs hush. Let the sting of soap and the swirl of hidden things sink below the surface for a moment. Listen closer through the hush of whispers and the splash of a careless foot, and you'll hear the true heartbeat of this place. It's not the laughter or the low hum of scandal behind velvet curtains. It's the steady, tireless clatter of buckets moving water from fire to tub, from tub to drain, over and over, as constant as breath. Picture it, the far end of the bathhouse, where the stone floor darkens with centuries of spilled warmth. A wide hearth, banked high with coals, glows under an iron cauldron big enough to drown in, if you are unlucky. The water inside bubbles softly, not quite a boil, just hot enough to sting your skin when poured fresh. Nearby, stacks of wooden pails wait their turn, handles smooth shiny by 1,000 wet palms. Imagine the boy who tends the buckets, cheeks red from the fire, shirt stuck to his back, sleeves pushed high to spare the thin linen from the splash of scalding water. He dips the ladle deep, shoulders trembling as he fills each pail to the brim. He shifts the weight to his hip like an old woman balancing a child. The iron handle squeaks as he moves. Step, step, slip, catch himself just before the water sloshes over the rim. Behind him, another servant, older, a girl with thick plaits knotted under a ragged cap, waits for her turn. She rolls her eyes when he stumbles, clicks her tongue, but says nothing. She's done this 1,000 times. She knows how to sway her hips just right to keep the water level steady while weaving between elbows and knees and dripping feet. Meanwhile, you watch them from your warm perch in the tub, water lapping at your collarbones. Their steps mark the pulse of the room. Clank, scrape, splash, hiss. A pail scrapes the hearthstones. The ladle dips. A fresh bucket steams in the cool air for a heartbeat before being carried off, its heat already ebbing with each footstep. The bathkeeper barks the rhythm. He's the master of this dance. He knows how much heat keeps the water just shy of scalding, how much must be topped off when the tub goes tepid and guests start muttering complaints behind cupped palms. His eyes flick from hearth to buckets to pool and back again, counting coins in his head with every trip. Hot water is not cheap, and heat itself is a kind of coin that must be hoarded, portioned, traded for a word of thanks or a slip of silver. Imagine this. A merchant with soft hands and a sharper tongue snaps his fingers, demands hotter water for his soak. He claims he paid double for the privilege. Whether he did or not, who knows? The girl rolls her eyes again, but lifts a bucket to her shoulder, steps careful and slow. When the steam hits your nose, you catch the ghost of singed rosemary drifting off the surface, mingling with the sharper tang of iron and stone. Here's the curious part. They never pour it all at once. No, that would be wasteful, reckless. Instead, they ladle it out in slow arcs, letting the warmth drift down your back like a lover's sigh, letting the heat chase the chill from your bones one trickle at a time. A hiss escapes your lips when a droplet too hot kisses a scrape on your shoulder. The boy laughs softly, shrugs like he's done you a kindness. And maybe he has. Pain means the warmth is working, or so they say. Meanwhile, in the shadows near the wall, buckets sit stacked and waiting, each drop inside precious. You hear them knock together when the girl drops hers too carelessly on the flagstones. A loud clunk that earns her a smack on the shoulder from the bathkeeper. Not hard enough to bruise, just hard enough to remind her that water costs would cost silver, and nothing should be wasted in this echoing house of steam. Picture the old man near the hearth, gray beard damp at the ends, feet tucked into a shallow basin. He holds a small bucket in his lap, dipping a rag in again and again, dribbling warm water over his knees. Each splash is a tiny prayer. For warmth, for a body too stiff to bend anymore, for joints that creak like old doors left open in a winter wind. The boy tries to hurry him. Time is coin, after all. But the old man just hums, eyes closed, lost in the rhythm of water dripping off his elbows onto the stone below. Funny, isn't it? You came here to scrub away your filth, your aches, your secrets. Yet you're kept clean by these buckets, filled by blistered hands, carried on raw shoulders, ladled out with a care that costs someone else their sleep. The warmth that loosens your limbs was born of burning what you didn't chop, flames you didn't tend, sweat you didn't spill by the hearth in the hush before dawn. So lie back. Listen. Each clatter, each scrape of metal on stone, each hiss of water hitting old stone floors is the song that keeps this place alive. A lullaby in a way, crude, wet, echoing but soothing all the same. The bathhouse breathes with it, steams with it, hushes you to sleep with it. And when your eyes close, you'll still hear them. The buckets knocking, the ladle dipping, the quiet grunt of a boy whose arms ache to the bone but keep going anyway. Because tomorrow there will be new dirt to wash away, new backs to scrub, new secrets to soak free. Next, hush your thoughts. We'll slip into something brighter. The festival nights, when the baths were more than a routine, more than a chore. A place where music slipped in with the steam, and the warmth felt just a little like celebration. Next, listen, do you hear it? Something different now, weaving through the hush of water and the scrape of ladles. A sharper note, a ripple of voices that don't whisper, but rise like the crackle of a bonfire on a festival night. It's not just another evening in the baths. Tonight, the bathhouse hums with a kind of celebration, a feast of warmth, a gathering that feels almost holy in a world where warmth and company are rare treasures. Picture it. A chill evening outside, frost already creeping along the edges of thatch roofs, horses' breath drifting like ghosts in the alley. But step through the bathhouse door and you're swept into a pocket of heat and light and laughter that's bigger than the steam itself. Tonight, a festival, maybe St. John's Eve or a harvest feast after the last grain has been threshed, or just an excuse to drink what ale is left before the cask goes sour. A man strums a lute near the hearth, one string slightly out of tune, but no one cares. His foot taps the stone floor, a soft drumbeat that slips under the splash of water. Meanwhile, two jugglers, boys not old enough to grow a proper beard, toss apples back and forth near the benches where half-dressed bathers sit swaddled in linen wraps, cups of mulled wine warming their hands. A girl with wild hair sings a snatch of song about a miller's daughter and a traveling monk. Her voice rises above the hush, curls around the rafters, slips into the ears of old men nodding off in the steam. Picture the pools now, fuller than usual, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder like fish in a pond. A young couple leans together, laughing too loudly at a joke no one else heard. The boy near them tries to float on his back, feet bumping another's knees, splashing water that drips from hair on its cheeks. on a wine cups resting on the pool's edge. The bathkeeper, sleeves rolled up to the elbows, grins more tonight than he is all month. He's got extra jugs lined up near the hearth, the warmth of the fire fighting the chill that sneaks under the bathhouse door. Every so often, he ladles a measure of wine into a cup, dribbles a bit of honey from a cracked clay pot, and hands it off with a wink and a reminder to mind the step. Slippery stone is cruel to drunk feet. And yet, nobody minds a bruise tonight. Picture this: an old man leaning on a stick, feet dangling in a shallow tub, humming along with the girl's song. Next to him, a boy stirs a pot of spiced wine over the embers, cloves, cinnamon, scraps of apple peel swirling in a swirl of sweet steam. Each sip loosens the tongue. Gossip floats easier. Laughter bounces louder. Shoulders brush together with a new softness that makes even old enemies nod in greeting. Meanwhile, children dart between the grown-ups, feet slapping the wet stone as they chase each other around the edge of the big pool. One boy slips, land with a splash that sends water onto the lute player's foot. A shriek of protest, then a roar of laughter. A father scoops his son out of the water, sets him on his hip, water dripping from his hair like rain off a thatched roof. The boy giggles, clutching the father's beard for balance. Tonight, the steam carries more than sweat and old secrets. It carries something lighter, a reminder that even in the mud and hunger and petty cruelties of life, warmth can be shared. Imagine you now, your back pressed to the stone, a cup balanced on your chest, knees bobbing just under the water. Your ears hum with music. Your skin glows pink from the heat and the wine. Someone slides closer, shoulder bumping yours. You don't know their name. It doesn't matter. They smile, teeth crooked, eyes bright with the kind of softness that only finds people when they're half soaked and half drunk. A dog, yes, even here, wanders between the benches, tail wagging, hoping for a scrap of bread or a lick of spilled wine. The bathkeeper shoos him gently when he gets too close to the fire. The dog trots off, shakes his fur, sends droplets splattering against a man's bare feet. A curse, a laugh, and the dog curls up by the warmest wall, snout on his paws, dreaming dog dreams while the humans tangle themselves in songs and splashes. Funny, isn't it? How a place that so often stinks of soap and secrets can glow golden for a few short hours. How the same pool that hides sickness and scandal can cradle laughter and song, hold voices like it holds warmth. Tomorrow, the wine will sour, the lute string will snap, the water will cloud again with sweat and skin. But tonight, the steam forgives everything, the dirt, the lies, the bruises. So close your eyes. Feel the wine slip down your throat, sweet and sharp all at once. Let the hum of music wrap around you like an extra blanket. Forget the frost outside. Forget the rumors waiting to catch you by dawn. For now, you're here, skin against stone, cup in hand, laughter echoing off damp walls like a promise that maybe, just maybe, warmth can be enough. Next, stay close. The women have their own corner here too, a place to whisper, to conspire, to scrub each other's hair and secrets all at once. Next, slip away from the louder songs and clinking cups for a while. Let the hum of men's voices fade into a distant echo behind the mist. Follow me, just beyond the biggest pool, past the row of stone basins and the hearth's glow. There, tucked behind a heavy curtain, or maybe just a wooden partition patched together with care and a wink, is the women's corner. A place that smells not just of soap and wet stone, but of rosemary oil and damp hair, and the warm hush of secrets that never reach the men's ears. Picture it. The steam here is thicker somehow, clinging to the low rafters, turning each candle into a blurred halo. Women sit on low stools, knees tucked under them, hair coiled in damp loops or let loose to drift like river weed across bare shoulders. Their voices hum softer than the man's. But listen closely and you'll hear the sharp edge beneath the laughter, the sly curl of words that weigh more than a whole jug of ale. Imagine a young wife, cheeks flushed from the heat, her belly round with a child not yet born, leaning close to her sister, voice slipping between giggles and sighs. She tells her how the midwife claims it'll be a boy because he kicks so fiercely at night, like he wants to break out and run before the frost sets in. Her sister snorts, flicks water at her ear, says boys are nothing but trouble, but you see the fondness in her eyes. Beside them, an older woman, hair streaked silver and caught in a fraying ribbon, bends forward to comb the tangles from a girl's thick, dark hair. Her fingers tug just enough to make the girl wince. But the pain is familiar, motherly, a reminder that someone's still here to scrub the knots free. With each pull, the girl murmurs her little confessions, that she wants to marry the baker's boy, that he promised her a sweet bun on Sunday, that her father would tan her hide if he knew she'd kissed him behind the millstones. The older woman only clicks her tongue, mutters about foolish hearts, then pours another ladle of warm water down the girl's back. Meanwhile, in the farthest corner, a knot of women lean shoulder to shoulder, hands busy rinsing cloths and scraping skin, their words sharper than any razor. They trade stories like coins, whose husband was seen slipping from the candle maker's shed, whose daughter's belly has started to swell before any ring found her finger, whose neighbor hasn't bled in 3 moons, and now prays to saints by day and cries in her wash basin by night. Each tale lands with a hiss and a shrug, a splash of water, a conspiratorial grin. No secrets last long here. Not because they're stolen, but because they're offered up willingly, half confession, half insurance. In the women's corner, knowledge is warmth too, protection against a world that demands their silence in the daylight. Picture a girl perched on a stool near the partition, knees pulled up, toes skimming the water. She hums a tune under her breath as she rubs rough soap along her forearms, eyes drifting shut every so often when the steam feels too sweet to bear. But even she's listening, one ear cocked for the gossip, for the snippets that might matter later. The baker's shortage of flour, the brewer's new debt, the sly promise that if you bring a fat duck to the bathkeeper, he'll let you sneak an extra hour in the hottest pool. Funny, isn't it? In a world that pins women's voices down like pressed flowers, the bathhouse becomes their garden. Behind this flimsy wall, they bloom. Soft words, sharp jests, shared pain, fleeting sweetness, all soaking into the steam. Their nakedness here isn't just skin deep. It's the bareness of confessions, the tangle of hair and secrets, the way they scrub each other's backs, not just to chase away dirt, but to remind one another, I see you. I know you. You're not alone. Imagine the smallest girl, 6, maybe 7, perched on her mother's lap, feet dangling in a wooden tub. She squeals when the soap touches a scratch on her knee, tries to wriggle free, only to be pinned by gentle hands and a firm hush. She listens too. She always does, absorbing every whispered betrayal and rumor, weaving them into the story she'll carry with her long after the steam has cooled. Some nights, when the festival songs filter in from the men's side, the women laugh and mimic the tune, twisting the words into something bawdy, rolling their eyes at who's probably fumbling behind the velvet curtain. They know. They always know. But here, in this foggy corner, it's not about the men's sins. It's about staying warm together, scraping the dirt off each other's skin and hearts before the cold takes hold again. So hush now. Stay here a little longer, knees pressed to your chest, hair dripping down your back, someone's hand moving in slow, careful circles with a last scrap of good soap. Feel how they speak of futures they half believe, how they hold each other's confessions like precious coins. Tomorrow, they'll wrap themselves tight in rough cloaks, tug hoods over damp hair, step into the night where the wind steals warmth like a thief. But tonight, here, they have each other and the steam and the soft promise that maybe, just maybe, they'll carry each other's secrets safely to spring. Next, we'll slip back through the partition, but not everyone loves this ritual, you know. Some fear the bath as much as they crave it. They call the warmth a danger, a temptation, an open door for things darker than dirt to slip through their pores. Next, come away from the warmth for a moment. Step back, past the steam-heavy rafters, past the murmured confessions and the scent of rosemary and lye, out into the cold edges of the bathhouse's reach, where the glow of the hearth fades and the door swings just wide enough for a draft of night air to slip in. Here, in this thin seam between warmth and cold, you'll find them, the ones who stand in the shadows, arms crossed, cloaks drawn tight around shoulders that have never known the scrape of a loofah. Picture it, a village priest in his dark robe, a hood pulled low to hide the lines on his brow, eyes narrowed not from the smoke, but from a suspicion older than this bathhouse's stones. He steps just inside the door, just close enough for the heat to kiss his cheeks pink, but never so far as to risk a drop of that communal water on his skin. He calls the bath a sin, or worse, a gateway, a place where the devil might slip into your pores along with the steam. Meanwhile, an old farmer stands beside him, boots still crusted with manure, arms wrapped around his chest like armor. He listens to the priest's muttered warnings, nods every so often, yet his eyes drift over the half-glimpsed shapes behind the rising mist. A boy laughs somewhere deeper in the pools. A woman's giggle flits across the room, sharp and sudden. The farmer's mouth twitches. He's curious, of course he is, but old ways die hard. And where he comes from, water is for drinking, for blessing, not for wallowing half-naked with your neighbors. Imagine the stories they whisper to their children, that the pores of the body, once opened by heat, are a door for disease, for sin, for spirits that slip under the skin and coil around the heart. Some claim the baths steal more than dirt, that they loosen morals, tempt the flesh, muddle the mind with heat and wine until even the purest soul might forget itself behind a velvet curtain. Picture the woman who comes to the bathhouse door but never steps inside. A widow, maybe wrapped in layers of wool and an old headscarf pulled tight under her chin. She hands her eldest daughter a pail, coins tucked under a bit of cloth. "Pay the bathkeeper for a bucket of hot water," she says. "Bring it home. I'll wash in the hearth corner, as my mother did, and her mother before her." Her eyes flick to the shapes moving in the mist. A young girl's bright laugh, a man's bark of drunken delight. She tuts under her breath, lips pressed thin. There are stories about women who step inside these walls and come out carrying more than warmth under their cloaks. Meanwhile, a few braver souls step in once, just once, and swear never again. They tell tales of feeling the evil slip in like a draft, how their skin prickled with every whispered rumor, how the closeness of bare bodies made their thoughts itch in places they've long learned to bury. They stand at the edges of the village square afterward, pulling their cloaks tighter whenever the bathkeeper passes by, as if the smell of soap might stain their souls for good. And yet, for all their fears, they can't look away. They talk about the filth that clings to those who bathe in the same tub, but it's not just the lice or boils that worry them. It's the warmth itself, the heat that melts away the thin lines between neighbor and lover, master and servant, chaste and shameless. It's the steam that blurs the things they've spent a lifetime trying to keep separate, the body from the soul, the desire from the duty. Funny, isn't it? How a place that promises to scrub you clean can seem to some like a cauldron where all the worst things brew. A bucket of hot water at home feels safer. The rough scrape of a rag in the corner of a dark hearth. The quiet hush of prayers muttered while you pour a ladle over your shoulders. No eyes watching. No laughter echoing off the stone. No half-heard moans behind a sagging curtain. And yet, look closer. Even these stubborn souls carry a secret. Some nights, when the cold bites too deep, when the grime clings too hard to be wished away with holy water and whispered psalms, you might catch one of them at the edge of the bathhouse again. Watching, listening, wanting. They'll pay the bathkeeper for a pail, clutch it to their chest like stolen treasure, hurry home before anyone notices. They'll pour it slow in the dark, steam rising off their shoulders like a guilty ghost. They'll feel that sting, the warmth, the temptation, and they'll tell themselves it's just this once. But you know, don't you? No matter how they curse these stone walls by day, they'll stand here again by night, hovering at the threshold, drawn by the promise that warmth can wash away more than dirt. If only they dare to step fully inside. So hush now. Feel the draft where the door hangs ajar. Pull the steam closer around your shoulders like a shawl, safe from the cold outside. Next, step deeper again. Come feel how the warmth itself is an art. How the heat in these pools must be coaxed, balanced, tamed like a living thing that can scald you or save you, depending on who tend the fire. Next, close your eyes for a moment. Feel the heat licking your skin. Not too harsh, not too mild, just that perfect sweet spot that makes your shoulders drop and your thoughts drift like leaves on water. But it wasn't always this gentle. Keeping the baths warm enough, but not too warm, was its own quiet craft, a dance of fire and water, risk and reward. Picture it deep in the bowels of the bathhouse, past the splash and giggle. There's the hearth, the true heart of this place. A squat, wide-mouthed brick oven, flames licking iron cauldrons so large that a grown man could curl up inside one and never touch the sides. If you dared, the bathkeeper's boy, cheeks streaked with ash, hair clumped with sweat, bends low to feed the coals, shovel scraping the stones, sparks drifting up to sting his wrist. He knows exactly how many logs it takes to keep the big pool at just the right shimmer of warmth. A little too low and the steam dies. A little too high and you've got blisters rising on your back like angry red blossoms. Meanwhile, the bathkeeper stands watch, arms folded over his chest, eyes squinting at the flicker of the flames. He's not a rich man, not really, but he holds a power here. Too many coins wasted on wood, and his profits vanish with the smoke. Too little heat, and the bathers grumble, wrap their cloaks back around their shoulders, and march off to another house with hotter water and cheaper wine. Balance, balance, balance. That's what he mutters under his breath like a spell. Sometimes, when the night grows long, he stands by the edge of the pool and dips a calloused hand in, testing the bite of the water with the same care a midwife tests a babe's bath. Imagine it, the hushed test of courage. Some bathers liked it scorching. They'd step in with a hiss and a curse, forcing themselves down inch by inch until the water lapped at their throats and their skin bloomed pink as boiled crab. Others, more timid, would hover at the edge, toes skimming the surface, eyes wide as they watched the steam curl off their shins. You'd see them lift one foot, wince, pull back, then try again, the whole ritual a dance of daring and retreat. A giggle might drift from a corner, a lover's dare, a friend's mockery. Go on then. It won't kill you, someone would call out, already half submerged, cheeks flushed and hair slicked back like a seal's. But here's the curious part. It wasn't just about comfort. Warmth was life. In a world where the wind howled through every crack in your cottage wall, where you woke with frost lacing your breath, the bathhouse offered a promise. Just a few stolen hours where your bones didn't ache and your joints didn't crack with every step. It was medicine, or so they believed. The heat coaxed the bad humors out, sweat dragging sickness away through your pores. Aches faded, cough softened. For a moment, you felt new again, raw and pink and brimming with the illusion that maybe winter wouldn't catch you this year. But balance was everything. Too hot, and the warmth turned treacherous. Picture the stories whispered by those who'd seen a man swoon. A nobleman who'd demanded the hottest pool, who'd slipped under the surface with a sigh and never rose again until the bathkeeper's boy dragged him up, blue-lipped and limp. They'd say the heat boiled the breath from his chest. Some swore the steam drew the soul out like vapor, left the body to drift away with the bubbles. The priest would nod solemnly, muttering that the Lord never meant for men to stew like goats in a pot. And yet, you'd come back. Everyone did, because that perfect warmth, that edge of blister's sting, was a kind of magic. You'd sink in, teeth chattering from the cold at first, shoulders tensing when the water kissed the raw cuts on your knees. Then, by degrees, you'd melt. The cold would slip away like a guilty thought. Your breath would slow. Your eyes would flutter shut. If you were lucky, a careful hand would ladle fresh water around you now, and then, keeping the warmth just so, not so scalding that your skin wept, not so cool that the aches crept back in. Imagine now, leaning against the pool's edge, your back pressing into stone, still warm from the fires beneath. You feel it, the pulse of heat seeping through your ribs, the tiny beads of sweat that gather at your temples, slip down the curve of your neck. Somewhere behind you, the boy grunts as he lifts another bucket from the hearth, arms trembling, steam rising in lazy ribbons. Each splash into the pool stirs the warmth, mixes it like soup, hot near your ankles, cooler your chest. You stretch out your legs, toes drifting into the hotter current, and a soft moan slips free before you catch it. No one notices, or if they do, they understand. Funny, isn't it? How something so simple, water, fire, stone, can feel like salvation one moment and a sly threat the next. Too much heat and the body fails you. Too little, and you may as well wash in the icy river that snakes through the village square. But here in this balance, you're just right. A piece of meat gently simmering, but not yet overcooked. So, breathe deeper now. Let the steam fill your lungs until you taste the sharpness of it on your tongue. Feel the warmth crawl under your skin. Chase out the chill you dragged in on your boots. And if your thoughts start to drift to all the hands that tend these fires, the shoulders that heave the buckets, the coins that trade warmth for survival, hush them for now. You're here. You're floating. You're balanced, just like the bathkeeper's flame. Next, look around. See those small shadows darting between the pools? Children, half wild, half bathed, slipping through the warmth like minnows in a summer pond. They're part of this world too. Their laughter, their mischief, their shrieks that echo through the steam like tiny ghosts refusing to be hushed. Next, open your eyes a little wider. Let the heat soften the edge of your thoughts, but sharpen your senses just enough to catch them. Those small shapes darting between grown bodies, weaving through the forest of legs and dripping hair. The children, in a world that weighs down the shoulders of every man and woman, they move through the bathhouse like minnows in a shallow stream, impossible to catch, impossible to hush. Picture it, a boy, no more than 6 or 7, ribs sharp as reeds, under skin pink from the steam, dashing along the slick stone path that winds between the pools. He skids, arms flailing, a squeal bursting from his throat like a bird startled from a bush. Behind him, a girl, older, hair tied up with a bit of string, laughs so loudly that 2 women scrubbing each other's backs pause mid-sentence to shush her, though their eyes smile more than they scold. Meanwhile, Deeper in the haze, two smaller ones crouch by a low basin, fingers chasing each other's reflections on the surface of the water. They giggle at the ripples, at the way the candlelight makes their faces look monstrous and strange. One dips a foot in, pulls it back with a gasp when the warmth tickles too much. Another reaches for the soap block floating like a small, sad boat, pushing it back and forth until it breaks apart in their tiny palms. Funny, isn't it? The same steam that melts the grown-ups into soft sighs and sleepy whispers turns children into sparks, bright, crackling, refusing to settle. They've got no patience for gossip, no taste yet for ale or half-truths traded over steaming cups. Their secrets are all laughter and shrieks that bounce off the stone walls. Their only scandal a stolen apple or a splash too big, too loud. Picture this. A mother perched on a low bench, legs tucked under her, hair dripping onto her bare shoulders as she watches her son weave through the crowd. Every so often, she calls his name, sharp, half scolding, but her voice softens by the time he loops back to press his cold, damp cheek against her arm for a heartbeat before dashing off again. She'll catch him later, bundle him in a threadbare wrap, scold him for the bruise blooming on his shin. But for now, he's a creature of warmth and wildness. And oh, the sounds they leave in their wake. A splash here, a squeal there, the slap of small feet on stone, the soft hush of a palm swatting the back of a head that got too close to the hot hearth. The bathkeeper pretends to grumble, waving a ladle like a shepherd with an unruly flock. "Sit still, or you'll crack your skull," he mutters, but his eyes betray him. There's a ghost of a grin there, hidden behind the steam and the weight of coins in his apron. Imagine the old man dozing by the shallow pool, head nodding, chin tucked in his chest, startled awake when a boy's splash kisses his cheek. His eyes snap open, a curse half formed, but the child is already gone, laughter trailing behind like footprints in fresh snow. The old man shakes his head, wipes the water from his beard, and sinks back into the hush, a tiny smile flickering at the corner of his mouth. He remembers when he was that boy, barefoot, skin raw from scrubbing, heart wild with the thrill of being somewhere warm and forbidden all at once. Meanwhile, in the women's corner, a little girl sits perched on her mother's knee, squirming while her hair is combed out in slow, careful strokes. Each tug earns a sharp ow that echoes through the steam, answered by a patient hush now, hush. The rhythm of brush against hair as old as the stone walls themselves. Another girl watches, eyes wide, legs folded under her, fingers tracing patterns on the wet stone. She listens to the women's gossip without really hearing it. What she'll remember is the warmth, the taste of rosemary on her lips when she licks the droplets from her nose, the safe heaviness of her mother's arms. Look closer. There's always one bold child who tries what the grown-ups fear. A boy dares the hottest corner of the big tub, dipping a hand in, yanking it out with a yelp that turns into a laugh when his friend dares him to do it again. A bath attendant snaps his fingers at them, threatens to chase them with a bucket of cold rinse water. They shriek, scatter, tiny ghosts melting into the fog before you can catch their shapes. And all around them, life drifts on, the old men nodding off against the warm stone, the women scrubbing secrets from each other's shoulders, the merchants muttering deals under their breath. But the children keep it alive in a way none of them can. They remind everyone, without meaning to, that the warmth is not just for washing away filth and sin. It's for laughter too, for splashing when you're told not to, for the wild thrill of skin meeting steam with no thought of sickness or shame. Tomorrow, they'll run barefoot through the frost, knees scraped, noses running, hair tangled again in the wind. But tonight they run here, barefoot, half-bathed, warm in a way they'll carry like an ember long after they're grown. So hush your thoughts for a moment. Listen for the patter of feet on stone, the squeal of laughter slipping through the steam. Let it remind you that somewhere inside you, no matter how many winters you've carried on your shoulders, a piece of you still wants to run through the mist, weightless, fearless, untamed. Next, stay a while longer. We'll drift now to the grandest of pools, the ones that gleamed like palaces for those who could pay, where warmth was more than survival. It was a statement, wealth, pride, and the sweetest vanity money could buy. Next, drift with me now, away from the cracked stone pools and the battered wooden benches, away from the rough laughter and the splash of barefoot children. Let your mind slip through the steam, across muddy village streets and frostbitten forests, all the way to the cities that glittered like jewels even in a world of candlelight, where the bath was not just a humble wash, but a statement, a performance, a stage where gold and heat wrapped around naked skin like velvet. Picture it, a grand bathhouse in Paris, London, or perhaps the great thermal spas of Hungary, where natural hot springs bubbled up from the earth like a gift too precious to keep hidden under mud and moss. Here, the steam did not rise from buckets lugged by shivering boys, but poured in endless white plumes from the very bones of the ground, the smell of minerals sharp on your tongue the moment you step through the arched doors. Imagine you standing at the threshold. The first thing you see, high vaulted ceilings painted with saints, swirling vines, or pagan gods no one dares name aloud, but everyone loves to see dancing above them. The walls glisten with mosaics, tiny bits of colored stone and glass catching the flicker of hundreds of oil lamps balanced in iron sconces. Gold leaf peaks from every corner, half tarnished by the damp, but still enough to remind you. This is no ordinary tub. Your feet pad across marble floors, warm to the touch because the clever architects built channels beneath the stone to carry the heat of the springs through every inch. It feels like stepping onto the back of a dozing beast, alive, gentle, ready to devour the winter that clings to your soles. The bath attendants here do not wear frayed tunics or stained aprons. No, they're draped in linen, so fine you'd swear it might dissolve if the steam kissed it too long. They move with the soft arrogance of people who know they hold the power to tip the balance. Too much heat, and your skin will scald. Too little, and you'll leave complaining, coins still clutched in your damp fist. Meanwhile, the pools themselves are wonders. Imagine them round as moons, or long and low like rivers trapped indoors. Columns rise from the water's edge. Smooth stone beasts carved with vines, lions, the faces of saints that seem to smirk as they watch bare bodies slip beneath the surface. Some pools shimmer with floating flowers, rose petals drifting like tiny boats, lavender sprigs crushed between fingers that have never known calluses. Some glow green with mineral salts. Water so cloudy you see only the blur of shapes below. Shoulders, knees, the ripple of hair fanning out in soft underwater halos. Listen, hear the murmur of a different kind of gossip. Voices pitched just low enough to keep their secrets hidden in the steam. A noble woman, her hair pinned high with combs that glitter like stars, leans toward her neighbor to whisper whose son has been seen with whose daughter behind the bishop's garden wall. A merchant from Genoa brags to anyone listening that he'll import enough silk to drape every lady in the room. If the king will sign the papers that rest, for now, locked in a coffer 2 cities away. And all the while, the servants move through the haze like silent ghosts. They refill wine cups with steady hands. They pour rose water over broad backs, careful not to spill too much. Every drop of luxury that costs more than farmhands' winter wages. If you listen closely, you might catch the faint hiss of oil poured into the water, the soft sigh of skin that knows it will leave this place gleaming. Imagine the warmth of these pools. Not the biting sting of half-boiled water in a peasant's tub, but a soft, decadent embrace that makes your eyelids flutter and your bones melt into the marble. A young man slides deeper, chin tipped back, eyes drifting up to a ceiling so high it seems to vanish into the night sky. A girl leans against the edge, oil-slick hair drifting behind her like dark silk, a faint smile curling her lips as a servant kneads the knots from her shoulders. Funny, isn't it? Even here, even when every wall drips gold, when the floors hum with hidden heat, when rose petals drift across your collarbones like a blessing, it's still the same ritual at its heart. Scrub away the week's dust. Wash out the stories you wish you'd never told. Float for a moment between the filth and the cold that waits beyond the carved door. But here, you might believe, for an hour, maybe two, that the warmth will last forever, that the walls will always hold you, that the gossip whispered into your ear will stay here, trapped in the steam like an oath sworn under stars. So breathe it in, the oil, the herbs, the sharp mineral tang that reminds you this warmth does not come cheap. Feel how your skin glows under it, how your thoughts drift like the petals across your chest. Here, you're not just clean, you're new, reborn, a softer version of the thing the city will see tomorrow. Next, let me show you the final touch of vanity, the perfumed oils that linger long after you've stepped back into the frost, the scents that promise you are something sweet, something soft, even when the bathhouse's warmth fades into memory. Next, don't rise from the water just yet. Linger here, neck deep in the warmth, your skin pink and softened, your mind drifting like a leaf that refuses to touch the shore. Because before you step back into boots and wool, before you pull your cloak around your shoulders and brace for the frost waiting beyond the door, there's one last indulgence you cannot miss: the perfumed oils. Picture it: a small table near the hearth, polished with slick with tiny pools of spilled sweetness. Bowls of precious glass sit lined in a neat row, each stoppered with wax or wrapped in soft cloth to keep the scent from slipping away too soon. You can see your reflection in the surface, hazy, shifting, like a dream you're not ready to wake from. The attendant stands behind it, older, eyes narrowed with the sort of careful pride that comes only from guarding things far more valuable than any single coin. She uncorks a tiny vial, lifts it to her nose, inhales with a flutter of her lashes. Lavender, maybe, or rose if you're lucky enough to afford it. Cypress for the men who wish to smell sharper, more wood than bloom. A swirl of sandalwood drifting over a basin of warm water, ready to be poured in careful rivulets down the line of your spine. Imagine your turn. You stand there, hair damp, skin raw from the scrub. The smell of old tallow and sharp lye clings stubbornly in the hollows of your elbows, the small of your back. One drop, just one, and it melts that edge away, replaces it with something softer. Sweet, earthy, green, a promise that when you step back into the world, you'll carry this piece of the warmth with you. Watch her hands, how she tips the bottle, just so, a single bead slipping free to kiss her palm. She rubs it between her fingers, heat blooming in the oil, scent waking like a flower at dawn. She presses it to your neck first, behind your ear where your pulse flutters. A whisper of warmth against your throat, the scent seeping into your skin like a secret no chill wind can steal. Nearby, a boy, not quite 15, shoulders bony, hair scrubbed flat, waits his turn, eyes wide as the bottle hovers near him. He'll leave with just the faintest hint of rosemary, enough for his mother to notice when he slips home, for his friends to shove him playfully, call him a nobleman for an hour or two. Even the poorest, when the festival coins run deep enough, might taste this sweetness. A drop of lavender for a bride before her wedding night. A swirl of myrrh for the merchant who wishes to impress a rival's wife. Meanwhile, you feel it bloom on you. One scent turns to two. The woman dips her fingers in oil infused with orange peel. A rare treat, sharp and bright, cutting through the heaviness of steam and sweat. She brushes it along your collarbones, lets it drip to your chest where the warmth carries it deeper than any soap could. Her touch is impersonal but kind. This is not desire but care, the final gentle mark of a ritual meant to leave you better than you arrived. Funny, isn't it? In the village bathhouses you remember, a hint of soap was the best you could hope for. The ghost of rosemary if the bathkeeper had a good season. But here, in these grander walls, you step out a garden in bloom, each pulse point carrying a story. Rose for your secret softness, sandalwood for your strength, a flick of mint if you want your lover to linger when you lean close. Watch the others now. A woman tucks her hair behind her ear, her neck glistening where oil sits like dew. A man adjusts his tunic, fingers trailing over a spot just under his chin where amber oil clings stubbornly. They breathe each other in as they pass, a swirl of scent and steam, their eyes catching for a heartbeat before slipping away again. And when you step toward the door, cloak draped over your shoulders, boots heavy on the warm stone. The air outside will bite, sharp and mean. But for a while, the cold won't touch you. Your skin remembers the warmth. Your hair drips with the hush of steam, and every breath you take carries the soft ghost of orange peel, lavender, or rose, a reminder that for an hour tonight, you were more than your work, your grime, your debts. You were clean, soft, almost holy. So stand still a moment longer. Let the scent settle into your skin. Draw one more deep breath before you cross the threshold, a tiny shield against the frost waiting to curl its fingers around your throat. Next, we'll drift with you as you leave this place. Through the door, out into the night, where the warmth fades step by step, but the memory of it clings like a hush you can carry home. Next, feel the warmth one last time, pooling in your chest, clinging to your hair, seeping into your bones like a soft promise you almost believe will last. You stand at the threshold now, feet still bare on the smooth stone, your cloak bunched under one arm, the smell of rosemary and orange peel ghosting up from your skin. But beyond the half-open door, the night waits, sharp, dark, and hungry for the heat you carry like an ember cupped in your hands. Picture it. You lift your foot, hesitate for a breath, then step across the seam where warm stone ends and the chill begins. Your toes brush rough timber. Your heel kisses the dirt floor beyond the bathhouse's reach. The first gust of winter air curls around your ankles, testing you. A sly little reminder that nothing warm stays warm for long out here. Behind you, the bathhouse hums on, a low choir of splash and laughter and whispers floating through the door. You hear the clatter of buckets still being dragged across flagstones, the soft giggle of a child refusing to dry off, the deep murmur of two voices leaning too close for the conversation to be innocent. It's all still there, the gossip, the warmth, the steam, but the night is yours now. Wrap your cloak tight around your shoulders. Feel the rough wool scratch against skin that just an hour ago was scrubbed raw, dabbed with oil, made soft enough to tempt even the frost to be gentle. It won't be. The first breath you pull deep tastes like iron and pine sap, like wood smoke drifting down from chimneys too far to offer you any comfort. Your hair sticks wet to your neck. Each drop that slips free turns cold in a blink, chasing a shiver down your spine. Meanwhile, the streets at this hour lie half asleep. Cobblestones slick with frost catch the glow of the moon. The puddles that have not yet frozen twinkle like tiny stars fallen into the mud. You pass the stable where a lone horse stamps its hooves against the icy ground. its breath a soft cloud rising into the dark. Farther down, you catch the hush of a shutter creaking open, the edge of a nose peeking through. A neighbor checking who's foolish enough to bathe so late, to wander home with hair still damp, footsteps still soft. There's something comforting in the contrast, though, isn't there? Inside, the heat was heavy, the closeness sometimes stifling. Bodies pressed too near, secrets pressing even closer. Out here, it's just you and the frost, your footsteps and your breath. The weight of your cloak, the only thing between you and the bite of the wind. Funny, too, how the warmth lingers in pockets. Your armpits, the crook of your knees, the hollow behind your ears, all glowing like hidden lanterns, each breath of night trying to snuff them out. The perfumed oil holds on longer than the heat, clinging stubbornly where your pulse beats fastest. You catch it when you shift your cloak, a whisper of lavender or cypress that makes you smile, makes you remember the old woman's gentle fingers pressing it along your throat. Picture the path ahead, the winding street that cuts between timbered houses, roofs capped in snow, smoke drifting from holes where the thatch has been patched too many times to count. You pass a dark alley where you know stray dogs sleep piled in corners, their bellies pressed together for warmth they've stolen from each other all winter long. A door creaks open just ahead. You pause, lift your head, see the glimmer of a candle and the shape of a man with a jug in his hand. He squints, tries to place you. Maybe he sat across the pool from you tonight, feet brushing yours under the water without either of you saying a word. Now, out here, you're strangers again. He nods once, the barest flick of recognition, then turns back inside, letting the cold swallow the doorway behind him. And you keep walking. Your boots crunch over brittle patches of frost. Your shoulders curl tighter when the wind cuts around a corner. But there's a small thrill tucked under your ribs, isn't there? A quiet pride that for a few hours you lived softer than the world allows most days. You were scrubbed clean. You laughed, maybe too loudly. You tasted ale that warmed your tongue and oil that clings to you now like a ghost of something sweeter than survival. Ahead, your house waits, or maybe your shared room above a stable, or a rough blanket in a corner of your uncle's barn. Whatever shape it takes, you'll step inside, carrying a hush no one will see, but you'll feel for days. The dirt will cling to you again come dawn. Your hair will smell of smoke. Your boots will track mud across the rushes. But your skin will remember. Your shoulders will remember. The warmth will flicker somewhere deep, a hidden glow under rough cloth and early frost. So stand here for just one moment longer, cloak pulled tight, cheeks pink, the steam you carry finally fading into the night. Feel how the cold wants to claim you, how you stand just beyond its reach, your own small hearth flickering inside your chest. Next, let's slip closer to that hidden truth. How for some, the bathhouse was not just warmth, but power, a place to bargain, to plan, to whisper secrets that could topple more than grime into the water. Next, slip back with me, just for a moment, through the half-open door you thought you'd left behind. Because while your feet crunch over frost and your breath drifts in white curls into the night, back inside, under that same low arch and drifting mist, another kind of warmth crackles quietly in the corners. Not the heat of the coals or the steam that softens the bones, but the warmth of opportunity, of quiet deals struck while skin is bare and truth slips from loosened lips like beads of sweat rolling down a spine. Picture it, two merchants, bellies round, hair slicked flat from the bath, perched on a stone bench that rings the main pool. Their voices are low, but they do not bother to hush them fully. Not here, where the splash of water and the hiss of ladles mask the shape of dangerous words. A jug of ale rests between them, beads of moisture rolling down its clay sides. Every so often, One lifts a cup to his lips, eyes darting over the ripples, as if he half expects the water itself to tattle on him. Meanwhile, closer to the far wall, a priest soaks alone, half submerged to his chin, lips moving in prayer, but his eyes drift sideways, catching snatches of conversation he will carry back to his bishop before the sun has crested the roofs. In this theme, confessions do not need a wooden booth. They float up like bubbles. Easy to catch, easier still to hold over someone's head when winter comes and favors must be traded for warmth. Imagine a young scribe leaning forward, elbows on his knees, eyes wide as he listens to a guild master promise a cut of the grain trade come spring. So long as the city guard stays just sleepy enough at the gates when certain wagons roll through at dusk. He nods too eagerly, the steam turning his hair into wet curls that drip into the water. He's never heard men speak so openly, never felt the heat of secret gold sitting so close to the soft scrubbed skin of his neck. Next to him, an older woman with a face like an apple left too long in the larder dips a rag over her shoulder, pretending not to listen as she wipes sweat from her collarbones. She's heard enough names tonight to feed a dozen rumors, each one worth a loaf of bread, a promise of protection when her husband's debts come knocking on the door. Her eyes glint in the flicker of the hearth, shrewd, sharp, cataloging each word as neatly as a merchant counts coins. And oh, the bathkeeper knows. Of course he does. He moves through the steam with a ladle in one hand and a sharp eye that misses nothing. Each cup of ale poured, each bucket of hot water tipped just right, is a kindness paid for in soft promises, a favor here, a cut of the profit there. He never asks outright. He doesn't need to. The steam loosens tongues better than any blade could. Funny, isn't it? That the place where you stand bare, where the warm water kisses every hidden scar and secret mole, is also where men and women cloak themselves in lies spun thin as mist. A city hall might have its ledgers and its scribes, the guild hall its iron lockboxes and hard wooden benches. But the bathhouse has its hush, its steam, its slippery warmth that makes the truth slide free like soap from wet fingers. Picture this: a young courtesan, hair wound in a braid heavy with tiny beads, laughing softly at a joke whispered in her ear by a merchant twice her age. His hands hover near her knee under the water, not quite touching, not quite innocent. She tips her head back, lets him see the curve of her neck, and in return he lets slip the name of a rival's caravan. When it leaves, how it might just vanish on the road with the right men paid the right coin. A splash of water, a flick of a glance, a secret traded for the price of warm skin and a promise that might never come true. And while they drift in the mist, a boy with a scar along his cheek creeps close enough to catch the end of that secret. He slips out the door before anyone notices, cloak drawn tight, boots leaving small, wet prints in the frost. By dawn, that secret will have changed hands 3 times, its value growing like yeast in warm dough. Meanwhile, a hush of laughter rolls through the rafters. A jug is passed, a story half true, half lie blooms on someone's lips, part boast, part warning. Eyes meet in the fog, hands clasp under the water, soft or rough, brash or sly. A promise is made, a threat implied, all of it drifting like steam, too thin to grasp, too hot to hold for long. So remember this the next time you step into the warmth. Not every secret stays scrubbed away with the lie. Not every back gets cleaned for free. The bathhouse does not judge, it only listens. And somewhere behind every soft giggle, every flick of perfumed oil, every splash of rosemary water, deals are made that could buy a man his freedom, or drown him faster than the deepest pool. Next, come a little closer to the water's edge. Let's drift through the hush of the small, private pools. The hidden corners were not just lovers but spies, rivals, and the boldest gossips slip away to do the things that would shame the sun. Next, come closer, past the wide, echoing pools where laughter drifts like soap bubbles, past the open benches and the bright clatter of buckets being hauled to feed the main bath's hungry warmth. Slip down a narrower corridor now. See how the steam thickens here, curling around rough wooden beams and sagging velvet drapes meant to offer modesty, but failing just enough to tempt the eye. These are the small pools, tucked away like secrets behind thin walls of creaking timber or low stone arches so old they sweat warmth back into the water that kisses their base. Here, the warmth is not communal. It's private, or so the patrons tell themselves, and so the bathkeeper pretends to swear with a wink and a jingle of extra coin. Picture it. A room no bigger than a cattle stall, candlelight flickering on damp stone, the smell of rosemary and stale wine clinging to the air. A tub sits sunk into the floor, wide enough for two if you're friendly, wide enough for three if you don't mind a bruise to your pride. The water is never as fresh as the main pool. It's topped off, stirred with a ladle, perfumed with handfuls of herbs to sweeten the parts no one cares to think about too long. But none of that matters when the door thuds shut behind you. Once you step in, cloak left draped over a rickety hook, boots kicked aside, steam rising to kiss your cheeks. The rest of the world seems to slip away. Imagine a merchant and his rival, bodies pink from heat, knees brushing under the cloudy water, voices low enough to be drowned by a single splash. They lean close, lips curling with half smiles, each sentence a coil of promises that might buy silence or start a feud that ends in blood before spring's thaw. The bathkeeper knows they paid double for this room. He knows, too, that the boy perched on the other side of the door has an ear pressed to the timber, catching each word to sell before dawn breaks the hush. Meanwhile, a pair of lovers curl together in a far corner pool, water lapping at the small of her back as she perches on his knees. They murmur words they'd never dare in daylight. Nonsense that means everything when your skin is raw and your heartbeat hammers as loud as the dripping tap in the corner. Every so often, she glances toward the thin slit in the wall where the steam drifts out. Does someone watch? Does it matter? It only sweetens the moment. The risk a sharper spice than the cloves bobbing in the bucket nearby. Picture the shadows, too. Not every pair here is tender. An old widow bribes the bathkeeper for an hour alone with the midwife who knows her daughter's belly is too round too soon. They sit chest deep in cloudy water, knees bumping, the older woman's voice sharp enough to slice through the mist. Threats slip from her lips as easily as the steam curls from the water's edge. She leaves the room not lighter, not scrubbed clean, but heavier with new secrets now tucked tight under her cloak. Funny, isn't it? Outside these walls, privacy is a luxury no one really owns. Your neighbors see when you butcher your pig, hear when you fight your husband, count your loaves when the harvest is thin. But here, in these cramped rooms where the walls groan with every shift and sigh, people believe they're invisible, that the hush of the steam swallows every word, every gasp, every deal pressed between knotted fingers under the water surface. Listen now, a soft slap of water against stone, a hushed giggle that dies into a low moan, a hiss of someone burning their thigh on the hidden iron pipe that feeds warmth into the pool's belly, a muffled argument over coin. Did he promise 5 silver or 6? Was the girl meant to stay the night, or only an hour? The bathkeeper doesn't care. So long as the silver crosses his palm before the coals burn down, the secrets can soak as long as they like. Meanwhile, the walls remember. See that faint stain where the steam eats at the plaster? Behind it lives 100 half-told tales, whispered confessions, and slurred threats. giggles that turned to sobs when the promises went sour. Tomorrow, the next pair will sit in the same water, feeling the same warmth on their skin, telling themselves their secrets are new. But the walls know. The steam knows. And if you listen just right, you can almost hear the echo of every hush that came before yours. Imagine now, you slip from a small pool, knees trembling from the heat, hair clinging to the curve of your neck. You wrap yourself in a rough linen, fingers tracing the damp pattern the wall's shadow left on your bare shoulder. Your skin is soft, your secrets softer, carried out the narrow door, back through the clatter of buckets and the hush of the main pool, the warmth behind your eyes like a dream you half want to forget. So next time you think of the bathhouse as only soap and laughter and a scrape of loofahs on your back, remember these small pools. Remember what floats here when the rest of the house drifts off to sleep. And know that some dirt never scrubs free. It simply sinks deeper, warm and hidden, waiting for the next whisper to stir it loose. Next, come, let's slip out of the shadows for a moment. Step into the courtyard where the night air bites deep. Because when you step from steam into frost, you didn't just carry warmth on your skin. You carried rumors, envy, little seeds of scandal that spread through the village long after the last bucket was poured. Next, imagine this. Your feet are still damp, your hair sticks and cold, dripping strand to the side of your neck. Your cloak pulled tight but never quite tight enough. The bathhouse door swings shut behind you with a soft, heavy thud. Not a slam, just that thick sound of warmth locking itself away. And there you stand, blinking at the pale hush of moonlight caught on frostbitten rooftops, wondering just how long you can keep the steam wrapped around you before the night steals it for good. But here's the thing no one ever tells you. You're not stepping out alone. You carry more than the smell of rosemary and the sweet note of orange oil pressed to the hollow of your throat. You carry words, little half-heard things that cling to you like burrs in a hayfield, small and sharp enough to stay hidden until they prick you when you least expect it. Picture it. You cross the square, boots slapping the frozen ruts of the muddy road, hair damp under your hood. You nod at a man leading a mule to the far end of the yard, and he nods back, but his eyes linger. Did he see you slip into the bathkeeper's curtain corner? Did he catch the way you laughed too close to a merchant's ear, or the way your fingers brushed another's knee under the cloudy water? Maybe he only imagines, but imagination, out here, can do more damage than truth ever could. Meanwhile, in the shadows beneath the eaves of the tavern, two washerwomen stand hunched together, faces half hidden by their wool wraps. Their eyes flick to you, sharp and soft all at once. You catch only scraps as you pass. Your name tangled with someone else's, a smothered giggle, a half-whispered, "I heard." And you know, don't you? They'll carry that story home, pour it like warm ale into their husband's ears. And by morning, what you did behind the velvet curtain will be larger, louder, dirtier than it ever really was. It's not just you, of course. Everyone who steps from the bathhouse drips a little rumor behind them, like water from their hair onto the frozen street. The merchant's apprentice, grinning too wide, warmth still pink on his cheeks. They'll say he traded more than coins tonight, that he's learned to slip silver from purses as easily as he lifts gossip from loose tongues. The young wife who left with her shift half-buttoned. They'll swear her hair smelled a man who was not her husband. The widow with her chin high, her eyes dry. They'll wonder how many secrets she bought with the small copper coins hidden in her apron. Picture this too. In the low cottages where smoke curls lazy from the chimney stacks. Families gather around the hearth to eat the last of the bread and tell tales that make the darkness feel a little less sharp. Tonight's tales will be flavored by what drifted out with the steam, who was seen laughing with whom, who slipped behind the tattered drape, who stayed so long their cloak was warm even in the cold. No fact ever stays whole. The steam bends it, the frost cracks it, the mouths that carry it breathe it into something bigger than the truth ever dared to be. Funny, isn't it? You go to the bath to scrub yourself raw, to peel away the week's filth, to chase the itch from your scalp, to melt the cold from your bones. And yet the stories cling harder than the dirt ever did. No soap scrubs gossip from wet hair. No bucket of rosemary water can drown a rumor once it floats free into the night air. Imagine an old man hobbling home, bathwater still glistening in the folds of his neck. He mutters to himself about the nonsense he overheard. So-and-so's debts, so-and-so's affair, so-and-so's secret pox. By the time he reaches his cottage, the tale has changed shape 3 times, picking up bits of moss and grit like a snowball rolled through mud. When he croaks it to his neighbor over stale beer next market day, it will sound like truth, soft, dangerous, sticky as a burr. Meanwhile, the bathkeeper knows it too. He watches you slip into the dark, hears your footsteps crunch into the distance. He wipes the benches, stirs the coals, ladles fresh water for the next back to bend low before him. He doesn't need to speak the stories himself. They'll speak for him. Each one a whisper of power, each one a soft coin dropped into the purse he keeps hidden under the floorboards. So walk a little faster now. Feel the last warmth of the bath sink deeper under your skin, where the frost can't quite reach it. Keep your chin tucked low, your cloak drawn tight, your eyes fixed on the door that waits to swallow you whole. Behind you, the steam still rises, carrying tonight's truths and lies into the rafters. Before you, the night stretches long and cold, but your hair will still smell faintly of mint and oil, and somewhere under that, it will carry the echo of every rumor you heard, or started, or became, just by being there. Next, hush now. One last thing before the story winds towards sleep. You see, not everyone washed with soap and steam. Some washed in prayers instead, begging the saints to clean what the water never could. So drift with me, just once more, into the hush of faith, where the fear of sin and salvation danced in the shadows of every tub. Next, let your feet carry you just one last time back inside. Not to the big pools where laughter floats, not to the private stalls where secrets curl like smoke, but deeper to the quietest corner, almost hidden in the bones of the building itself. Here, the steam thins, the warmth eases, and a hush settles over the stone like a blanket that no one dares lift too quickly. Picture it. A small alcove near the hearth's dying glow, a nook where a battered icon hangs. A saint, his painted eyes gone soft from centuries of candle flame and the damp breath of prayers whispered by people who have nothing left to scrub clean but their souls. No velvet curtain here, no wine cups clinking, just the faint drip of water from a cracked basin and the flicker of a single beeswax taper, its flame bending in the draft that slips under the door. Imagine a woman kneeling on the rough rushes, cloak drawn tight over hair that still steams from the tub. Her fingers trace the edge of the wooden bowl she cradles in her lap. Warm water gone tepid, a single floating sprig of rosemary drifting like a memory she's not ready to lose. Her lips move, a prayer, half mumbled, half sung, the way her mother taught her, the way her grandmother might have done before that. She asks the saint to keep the warmth inside her a little longer, to guard the new life stirring low in her belly, or the old father dozing in the next room, or the husband whose lies she has washed from her skin but never from her mind. Meanwhile, just a few steps away, a boy crouches, back pressed against a stone, hair dripping onto the shoulders of his tunic. He doesn't kneel at the icon. He watches, eyes wide, too big for his thin face, lips chapped from the winter wind. He's heard the stories the priest tells, that the bathhouse is a den of sin, that the warm water opens your pores for the devil to slip inside. That nakedness invites more than just lice and disease. Yet here he is, drawn by the hush, the flicker of the candle, the chance that maybe, just maybe, the saint's painted eyes might forgive him for wanting the warmth that feels too good to be pure. Listen, the faintest echo of whispers drifts along the stone, the quiet spill of secrets that never make it back into the pools. A woman's voice asking if her husband's wandering heart will find its way home. A man with cracked knuckles and a cough that rattles like dry reeds begging for one more winter of strength before his bones sink into the earth. Sometimes I don't speak at all, just sit cross-legged on the cold floor, steam drifting off their shoulders, eyes fixed on the icon like it might blink if they beg hard enough. And when they rise, they dip their fingers into that bowl, cold now, rosemary limp and pale, and press a wet thumb to their brow, a last fragile promise that what the soak couldn't scrub away, this holy drop might. They step back into the warm thin or out into the frost, and for a moment they feel lighter. Not because they believe the sin is truly gone, but because the prayer carries it for them, tucked somewhere behind the saint's painted smile. Funny, isn't it? All this ritual, the scrape of a loofah, the sting of lie, the hush of secrets traded in the steam. And still, at the end, people kneel in the shadows and ask for another cleansing. A softer one, a quieter one, a washing that goes deeper than the skin. Meanwhile, the bathkeeper knows this corner well. He steps softly here, bucket swinging low so it doesn't splash the rushes near the saint's feet. He calls it foolishness when asked outright, mutters that no painted board ever cured a cough or fed a hungry child. Yet every time he passes, he dips his own fingers into the basin's edge, rubs a thumb along the saint's wooden toes, just in case. Imagine now the last few souls drifting away. The candles sputter and hiss as the drafts slip in under the door, the warmth fading inch by inch as the coals sink into ash. You stand, knees stiff from the cold that creeps back too fast. You press your palm to your chest, feel your own heartbeat. Steady, clean for now, softer than it was when you stepped in. When you walk out this final time, the hush of the prayers follows you like a shadow tucked inside your cloak. Your hair drips onto your shoulders, the rosemary scent lost to the frost. But the echo lingers, that fragile hope that maybe tomorrow you'll rise a little less burdened, a little less filthy in the places no soap can reach. So good night now. Let the bathhouse drift behind you. The echoes of laughter, the slap of feet on wet stone, the sigh of secrets blooming in the mist. Carry with you the hush, the warmth, the small ghosts of every whispered prayer. You'll need them when the cold comes calling, and it always does. Sleep well then. There will always be more grime to scrub, more gossip to share, more warmth to borrow. And when you're ready, the baths will wait, the steam curling just beyond the door, whispering that no matter how dirty you become, you're never too far gone to slip back in and let the water hold you a while.